With President Muhammadu Buhari yet to return from his 10-day medical trip to the UK, Vice President Yemi Osibanjo presided over Wednesday's Federal Executive Council meeting. The meeting lasted for over 2 hours, after which Information Minister Lai Mohammed, in his usual tradition, led other cabinet ministers into the council briefing room to address the press. Finance Minister Mrs. Kemi Adeosun told journalists that council approved a new draft debt management strategy. This, she added, is aimed at cutting down local borrowing and focusing on external borrowing.
We don't want government borrowing crowding out the private sector. So the government has taken a strategic decision that where possible, we will borrow more externally. That is external debt in dollars or in other currencies, because the interest rates are cheaper, the tenures are longer, and thirdly, it means that there's more room for banks to lend to private sectors, especially small and medium-sized enterprises.
Mrs. Adeosun also spoke on multilateral borrowing, which are largely taken from international agencies, saying they would be highly negotiated.
Recognises that for the next 3 years, to really stimulate this economy and to provide the infrastructure that we will need to be borrowing. So we need to borrow at the most cost-effective rates and under the most cost-effective and beneficial terms. And also, the government recognises that there's a need to stimulate the private sector. For the private sector to really grow, banks must lend to the private sector.
Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, corroborated her position. She explained that the nation must move away from short-term borrowing and focus more on long-term ones.
Federal government's decision to focus more on external borrowing and reduce internal borrowing in order to allow commercial banks have enough money to lend to individuals and corporate organizations is no doubt a commendable one. But the big question is, where will the commercial banks have enough money from to lend to these organizations, particularly at a time when the federal government, one of its biggest customers, have moved all funds to the single treasury account? From the Aso Rock Presidential Villa, I'm IKHARO, ATTAH, ITV News, Abuja.